everyone, I'm Amanda from Mandy Lynn Plans. Welcome back for another video. Today we are going to be comparing the 2023 Hobonichi Cousin Planners. Here I have the Japanese version and the English version. And as you can tell, the only difference is the color of the text. So the Japanese version has not changed from the 2022 year. It is this same dark gray text, and the English is this golden yellow color. Everything else about the planners is exactly the same from the outside. Flipping to the first spread in the Cousin is the year at a glance page, and here I have the Japanese version, and you can see that in the Japanese version you have the month number. So for April you have 4, and then you have Japanese characters to tell you Monday through Sunday. In the English version they added a third line, so now we have 7 for the month of July, the word July, and then a line of Monday through Sunday. Here I was testing out our stickers for this page, and we are modifying our print version to be bigger like the hand lettered version so that you can see the printed Monday through Sunday and cover up the 2 lines here if you would like to add some color to these pages. And then this side of the planner, it is the same. So we have just 2 lines. So they took out the number here and replaced it with the month. So it is very similar in formatting. You just have English instead of Japanese. As I'm flipping back and forth, the English will always be on top. Here we have the yearly index pages, and you can see that in the Japanese version, the English month is very small in the corner. So we have January up here, and then a big number 1 with the Japanese character. It is flipped in the English version, and the English is large, and then the month number and the Japanese character are smaller. The layout is the same though, as far as the 3 boxes at the top. You have 1 grid per day. Of course, you do have the abbreviations for the days of the week in English instead of the Japanese characters, but the big difference on this page that I'm really surprised by, and I really don't understand why they did this, is they made the shading here to correlate with the weekend color shading of the Japanese, but in the Japanese version, it's white on the bulk of the column. It's just the colored boxes. I really don't understand why they pulled the shading across the whole way when they didn't make that change in the Japanese. I know for a lot of English users, we don't actually like the colored weekend shading, so it's an interesting change to me, definitely worth noting. Might be a reason for you to not get the English. There's a lot of other things that I'll talk about later, but this is just, I don't quite understand this change personally. It would have made more sense to me if they would have changed it in the Japanese version also. That would have made more sense. But at any rate, the boxes at the bottom are the same, and I think you might be able to tell on camera that the line thickness is bigger on the English version than the Japanese. So the coloring is all a little bit darker here than in the Japanese. I'm not sure if that's consistent throughout all of them or if it was just with the changing of these index pages. I'm not really sure. But in both, you have all 12 months for this index pages, and then it goes right into the monthly section. So here we have just a couple of small tweaks on the monthly section. The layout is exactly the same. We just have a little bit bigger text here for the Mon to Wed Thur. We still have the Japanese characters here for the days of the week. Here you can see they got rid of some of the Japanese and made the abbreviation for the month large in replacement of the numbers. Here on the Japanese version we have December really small. Here they still left this line blank instead of making it a full grid, and I thought that was an interesting choice since they took out the text. And then they also took out the little Japanese characters in the corners of all of these days of the month. We do still have the moon phases in the English version, just not those little Japanese characters that go with it. In the English version, we do also still have the week numbers. So we have week 48, week 49, etc. And still colored shading on the weekend. In both planners, you are given all of the monthly spreads through March of 2024, and then once you flip, you start into the weekly section. So here some of the differences are very minimal, like in the monthly spreads. We have the English just a little bit bigger. The lines start, so you can see in the Japanese version here on the bottom, The box for the 26 is larger. Here in the English version, the number box is smaller and the days of the week box is a little bit bigger. That's just to help to account for the larger font that they used for the words here. I would have loved for them to just replace the Japanese characters personally, but they still decided to leave some of the Japanese in the English version, so you're not getting away from it completely. Here in this navy box corner area, we have text for December and January instead of numbers for December and January. We still have 2022. They did take out this line of Japanese characters here. They added the 52nd week underneath the navy box, but the navy box itself is the same size, so our navy box covers, if you have those, will fit both versions still okay. The month at a glance in the corner, the only change they made is to swap out the Japanese Monday through Sunday with M through S. Everything else about the layout is exactly the same. The time bar did not change, so everything else about the bulk of the weekly is exactly identical from the Japanese to the English version. In both versions, you have through the end of December. December ends on a Sunday, so you don't have any of 2024 in the weekly section. Then you have the turning the page to a new year in both planners. The only difference is in these bottom calendars. It is English text versus Japanese characters. And then flipping to the daily pages, we see some more differences. There's a page for every month. Before the month begins, it is a blank page. There are no grids on this page even. Completely blank, except that it does have the month name, then a month number, and then in the Japanese version, there are quotes at the bottom. The English version, on these monthly start pages, there is no quote at the bottom. There are quotes on the rest of the daily pages, but not on this page that's before each month. And really the only change from the 2022 year to the 2023 year in the Japanese planner is on these pages. So here I have the 2022 Japanese Hobonichi cousin, and you can see that they put the quote at the top of the page and then the bottom of the page is blank. The 2023 version, they moved the quote at the bottom of the page to be more consistent with the other daily pages, and then they actually added this little techo icon with some Japanese text. So at the bottom of all of these monthly pages, you will see this little techo icon, and in the 2022, that was not included anywhere. The rest of the daily page spreads are identical from the 2022 planner to the 2023 planner. Okay, so now we have the English on top again, comparing to the Japanese on the bottom. You can see that they changed how this box is laid out. Instead of the number, they have Jan for us. This one is the date one, so January 1st, and then the day of the week. The day of the week box is a little bit bigger to account for some larger text. Here we still have the moon phase and the day of the year, so January 1st is the 1st. The timeline on the English is exactly the same as the Japanese. We still have the same 5 boxes. You might not be able to tell on camera, but this box is 1 grid longer. So there's just 1 grid space here between where the box starts and these 5 boxes versus the 2 on the Japanese. We are going to be revamping how we have our daily covers right now for our daily kits. Right now, if you use our daily kits, you will just barely be able to see the corners peeking out because we have a rounded edge. We are going to be tweaking that, so if you use the English, you will not be able to see the corners. And then, of course, probably the change that most people are excited about is that we can now actually read the bottom of the English dailies. Now, personally, this is not something that excites me. The quotes that they choose, and they're not like daily inspiration, fun, motivate you quotes. They're like interview quotes. So I personally use an avec, and I am not going to be using the English because they didn't even have an English version of the avec, so I didn't have an option. But if this matters to you, you can now read the bottom instead of it just being in Japanese. I will still use our daily kit covers to cover that up so that I can add some fun, pretty designs to my daily pages. You still have the colored tabs on the side. The colors are exactly the same from this side angle, you can't tell which one is Japanese and which one is English. And the calendar in the corner is again identical. They just swapped out the Japanese characters for M through S. So then we flip to the pages in the back, and they are a little bit different. I was actually surprised. I expected the only difference to be more English instead of Japanese, but you will actually see soon that they made more changes in that. So these pages are the same. They are just in English instead of Japanese. But then when we flip to the My 100 page, in the English version, it spreads over 2 pages. And then in the Japanese version, theirs is condensed to 1 page, and then they have this page, I don't even know, I have no idea, that talks a little bit about the daily page and the Techo, but I don't know what any of this is. And then we have a My Favorite Things page, which is the same. And then How to Enjoy Better Conversation. Here we have, I assume, the same things just in English or in Japanese. Then we get to more pages that are just very different, and I don't understand a lot of things about Japanese culture and the way that they use like calendars like this. Like, I know there's importance of how things line up in their culture that I don't quite understand, but we do have the same gifts page here, but in the English version they gave us a words to remember little page, and then a 365 days checkoff sheet that is not included in the Japanese version, and then addresses for 8 people. They also have that in the Japanese version, and then there's more of this that I don't understand. I had heard some people buying the English version just for the pages in the back of the planner, and so if that excites you, that is definitely something that you can consider. The My 100 page is fun that it's big enough to where you can actually write out maybe full titles if you're trying to read 100 books in the year or something like that. The 1-page My 100 spread is pretty small, and so it's hard to write. Maybe you want to try 100 new inks for your fountain pens or all kinds of things that you could do with this page, but it is fun to have more writing space here. So let me know what you think. Do you prefer the Japanese version? Do you prefer the English version? Personally, I don't understand some of the changes that they made, but I'm sure they had their reasons. You can't please everyone, so it's really okay. I do think it's fun that they are offering another version of their popular planners, so it is nice that they are acknowledging that they do have a market outside of Japan, so that's always good to see. I'd love to know your thoughts down in the comments, and as always, thank you so much for watching. Until next time.